Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, that lead-in, we should change it since the pandemic started. It should say, All Things Moore County, featuring local businesses and not events.
Okay.
Although we're starting to tape more with events as they're coming up.
Yeah, things are starting to come back into happening.
And last year, we spent a lot of time highlighting different businesses.
Yes, we did.
Retailers, restaurant owners, how they accommodated to the pandemic, how they pivoted, how they're surviving. And today we're going to throw a spotlight on another one of our topics that we've had many shows on in the past. How many times have you heard me say that in Moore County there's a subculture of wellness?
Yes, I've heard that a lot.
As the demographics have shifted and gotten younger, everybody is very conscious of their health. People aren't just here for golf, although golf is a big part of it. It's an outdoor community. People have an awareness, and there are many, many choices. Today we're going to be speaking with Jen and Chris Poulin. They're the owners of the Sandhills Sports Performance and Physical Therapy Center on Pinehurst Avenue. And you guys have, I've heard a bunch of good things about you. I know as I get older, I know everybody that I know has had some sort of physical therapy. It's just part of the way we go. But according to you guys, you're the only place in the Sandhills where physical fitness and physical therapy are offered under one roof. It's not a gym. It's not strictly a physical therapy place. How long have you guys been here? How long have you been in business? And tell me the story. I'm very interested. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. I can start.
Okay.
Actually, we moved here in August of 2012.
Okay.
And I like to say Jennifer was my first hire. I started Sandhills Sports Performance and functioned mainly as a personal trainer and strength coach for golfers.
For golfers, okay.
And over the course of about a year, started to get more injured golfers than I was golfers working on their performance.
Right.
So I finally convinced Jennifer, who had the steady job and health insurance at a nursing home, to come join me after work for a couple of hours, a couple of days a week, and get in network with some insurance companies and just see patients on the side so I can focus on performance and she can do the rehab work. And that quickly morphed into her coming with me full time.
Oh, okay. Now I'm confused. You guys are married.
Yes.
How long have you been married?
It will be 21 years this October.
Okay.
22 years.
So your husband is throwing a curveball at me. So you didn't meet her in 2012 and hire her.
No.
Okay.
I did not.
No, I could maybe go back in time.
Yeah. Help me out.
We met in Vermont, where I can't consider myself a Vermonter because I was not born there.
Right.
But Chris was.
Okay.
And years ago, I was a partner in a small physical therapy practice, and Chris was finishing up his hours as an athletic trainer with one of the colleges that we affiliated with. And so he really functioned as my support staff in the beginning. And then one thing led to another, and we fell in love and got married. And there's a lot more to that story, but we only have so much time.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
That's where it started. And we ultimately started a business in Vermont and had a private practice up there called Poulin Performance.
Okay.
For about 13 years we were in business until we got the itch to move south.
I was going to ask you how you landed in Moore County, how you evolved to make that decision.
Yes. Well, my parents are retirees.
Okay.
And they retired here in 1996.
Okay.
And we started dating in 1995. And so for years, we would come down here to visit my parents. And it felt like home because they were there and our stuff that I grew up with was in the house. And we just felt a connection to the community because it felt very New England-like because of the roots of the developers of the town.
Yeah.
So after, I think it was one Christmas, we were with all of our family who all lives in the South. And we thought to ourselves, what are we doing up north? Everyone's down here. The climate's better. And so we kind of, at that time in Vermont, we had 3 locations in our business. So we had to like take some time to sell that business. So we did ultimately sell that business. But I suffered from a little bit of business burnout, if you will, and really didn't want to get back into private practice. And so I said, if you want to do that, you go do that. And that's how it started, with him working as a subleaser and starting Sandhills Sports Performance. And I went and I had a job at Quail Haven.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly enough, my mother was a LPN there. So for about 10 months, my mom and I were able to work together, and we had a whole lot of fun doing that.
Is that right? How long ago was that?
That was in, it would have been in 12 to 14.
Did you know Trudy Locklear? She was a nurse there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, she lives in Pine. It's a small
Yes,
town.
and my mother is Grace Cooney, and she was an LPN. She's a little Scottish lady, so if anyone had, visited Quail Haven or was a patient there, they might remember my mom. So she's now retired. She doesn't want me to reveal her age, but she's retired. And so then Chris asked me if I would come help him, and I enjoyed that work over at Quail Haven because, as a segue into the framework of our business, I was able to work with a geriatric population. And I was known as the Medicare B therapist because because of my background in orthopedics and outpatients, I would go out into the community and see the more able-bodied residents and do their therapy within their home setting. And I was seeing the same patterns in their movement patterns in an advanced age that I saw in my 12-year-olds in my orthopedic outpatient clinic. So it was a very fun year and a half for me to be able to apply the science that I practice in a younger population to an older population. And so I ultimately ended up leaving that job because the demand for what we do was so great that my oldest daughter at the time, I think Madison might have been 10, said to me one afternoon, she goes, "Mom, I thought we moved here so you wouldn't work so much." So I was working at the nursing home and then going to the clinic and working till 6 o'clock at night and then going home and doing all the billing and paperwork. And that's when I made the decision. She's right. I didn't come down here to work 60 hours a week, and I resigned and went full time with Chris.
Back in 2012, when you came here, it sounds like you did what I did. You made a lifestyle decision to move here.
Yes.
And then come what may, you were going to set up shop here.
Yes.
And make it happen.
Yes.
And without anything to fall back on. This was a commitment to
This
relocate.
was a risk, but we're no strangers to risk. And when you take your first risk, it's scary.
Right.
And then you figure out what you did well and what you didn't. And we ended up landing on our feet every single risk that we took. And there have been, when we left Vermont, it wasn't like we sold our practice and made lots of money. But we knew that we wanted a change in our lifestyle when we moved here. So, we have some humble beginnings of this practice because I told Chris, you can do this, but you're not borrowing a penny. So here's a massage table and your skills. And that's kind of how Sandhills started.
Okay. Your practice, you treat military and their families, the equestrian community, golfers, student athletes, Parkinson's programs, pelvic health. That was really cute. It's not just about depends anymore. I get it. You do something called postural restoration.
Yes.
So to me, and I've been a chiropractic patient since osteopaths were invented. No, that's how far back I go. People are not in balance. They don't know they're not in balance. They go to maybe a chiropractor, they get in balance until they get out of balance.
Correct.
Right. It sounds like a lot of what you do is very organic, and it's one-on-one, and it's very personal. Talk a little bit about some of the programs that you spend a lot of time doing, because you're also going through a name change, which you're going to talk about. But you guys are here to stay.
Yes.
So brag a little bit. What are the programs that you are so proud of?
Well, I'm very proud of the foundation of our practice with the roots of a science called Postural Restoration. And Postural Restoration was founded by a gentleman named Ron Hureska out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was fortunate enough earlier in my career to meet this gentleman, because it was at a time in my career where I was feeling very disenchanted by the outcomes I was getting as a physical therapist. I felt like I really liked being a physical therapist, but it was almost like playing whack-a-mole with their bodies. They'd come in with knee pain, and I intuitively knew that their knee pain was related to muscle imbalances at their hip and their pelvis and their core. So I would do exercises with them, and they would get marginally better, and some of them got better with that approach, but others would develop shoulder pain or, and my neck hurts, and I really did not know how to tie those things together very well. So in the year of I think it was 1998, I think I took maybe 6 or 7 different clinical education courses, trying to find something. And I got invited to take Ron's course, and there was not even a Postural Restoration Institute at the time. That's how new the science was in the physical therapy community. And I got invited to take the course, and I denied it 3 times until finally the woman who invited me to listen to Ron speak said, "You don't have to pay." And I'm like, well, it's not about the money. It's about, I'm just done. I need to find something else to do with my life. Well, I went to the class, and my life has changed. For every part of my life changed when I met that man, because he connected the dots for me. And postural restoration is a holistic approach. I think the chiropractic community has it right with the nervous system and the alignment. But the difference is, when we look at patterns and muscle imbalances, we're looking at retraining the brain and how the body can adapt into a movement pattern. Like you said, that people don't even know that they have imbalances until they hurt.
Right.
And then they know they're consciously aware that they're not moving well. And so in our rehab programs, we give them the tools to learn about their muscle imbalances, that their knee may hurt, but the imbalance is in their opposite hip, or it's how they're breathing that could really affect how they pattern and posture themselves. So postural restoration isn't about sitting up straight. It's about really recognizing inherent imbalances and asymmetries just by the way our systems are, and how we get habitual and how we move.
It sounds to me, the way you're speaking, there's so many things that are interrelated to health. It's not a knee. It's not an elbow. It could be a shoulder. It could be referred pain from a joint higher than the one where the pain is being felt.
Yes.
But there are many, many different reasons why you have the pain. So it's almost like you guys are doing a postural MRI on a patient to figure out the interconnectedness between all the things that are going on.
Yes, and it can and everybody has muscle imbalances. It doesn't mean that you're going to have pain. You can have people out there that we'll never meet who are really good compensators. It's those that don't compensate well, or they've been involved in an accident, or they like to lift heavy weights and they overextend their back and they lose their ability to breathe with their diaphragm. And then when they can't breathe with their diaphragm, their pelvis isn't in the right position, and they could end up with pelvic floor dysfunction. So
wow.
Sometimes I forget why my patients are coming, what brought them in the first place, because I'm just looking at how their bodies function as a unit and then treating them. So people will say, I had a gentleman in this morning who said, my back hurts and my hip hurts, and do I need another referral to work on my balance?
Right.
And I was like, no, you don't need another referral or script from your doctor for me to work on your balance, because it's all interconnected. And I must have spent 30 minutes with him just teaching him how to breathe properly, because he needed that as a framework in which to build his strength upon.
Let's come back in the second set. There are lots of different things you guys do. You work with people as physical therapists, but you also work with athletes to train them to enhance their performance. So it's a little bit of everything. So there's a lot more to talk about, and we have to get you to talk in the second set, if you'd like.
How was that?
I don't know. Maybe we're going to ask you to. This is All Things More County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Our guests are Jen and Chris Poulin. Their business is Sandhills Sports Performance and Physical Therapy. They came here in 2012, and they have set a new standard for a combination of not just physical therapy, but physical training. And part of what you do, Chris, also is you work with athletes, golfers, to enhance performance. It's not just people who have physical ailments.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm a licensed athletic trainer by trade, and when we moved here, my goal was to help golfers. I have a little golf bug myself, but
Okay.
This started way back, I think in 1996, maybe. I took my first course in evaluating golfers and learning how to train golfers. It was called Back to Golf. It was by a physical therapist named Bud Ferranti. And we started to look at basically how Jen and I could maybe fix my own back problems that I had. So I have a chronic condition in my back called spondylolisthesis, and I could not play golf 2 days in a row. I started learning some techniques along the way, but still didn't really get to the root cause of what was really going on in my back and why I needed to change things a little bit. So then fast forward to many years later, I started studying postural restoration soon after Jen started, and really started putting the pieces together that myself with a chronic back condition, that I could actually come out of pain and play 3 or 4 day tournaments and not have pain. And so that kind of led me down a path of coaching high school golf in Vermont, helping a lot of golfers in Vermont, but kind of really wanted to do that year round.
You picked the right spot to land.
I think so. So yeah, it's all been good. And since then I've just added, some other arrows in the quiver to help golfers.
So what kind of golfers do you work with?
Honestly, my golfer range is probably 10 to high 80s.
Age-wise?
Anywhere in between age-wise,
And
yeah.
skill levels?
Skill levels, I'd say the majority of my clients are in their 60s.
Okay.
And, it's funny, you realize actually how good golfers are when you move to Pinehurst.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone in Pinehurst, I feel like, is a single-digit handicap. So most of my clients are in that range.
Yeah. So do you work with them to improve elasticity? Do you have to help them, coach them to compensate for some of their imbalances so that they don't have that recurring pain? Don't I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
Dude, you're doing a great job.
Not really, but I'm asking as a layman. I'm curious.
Well, I do a set of metrics. I do measure a lot, and I love my toys. And so I do have the capability to measure where the golfer is at the address position in their golf swing, at the top, and at impact. And that's a system I use. It's called K-Vest. And it's 3D biomechanics. And so a lot of times I get golfers that, like yourself, they might get chiropractic treatment by somebody, or they might try stretching that they found online and that they might feel is beneficial. Most of the time it's usually good stuff, but sometimes it does contradict what they really need. And we can objectively see during their golf swing what they need to work on. So there's different positions that golfers need to be in to efficiently swing the golf club. And if they can't physically get in that position, then we kind of dig deep and see why that is.
Is it true that the younger athletes are more coachable than people as they get older? You know the answer to this question.
I always say my clients I can coach when they're younger, and I coached high school golf.
Right.
High school was probably at the top end of them listening really well in some ways. And then the older, more seasoned golfer, I'd say, sometimes is harder to convince.
What a surprise. Wow.
If you've been a little bit set in your ways. But, sometimes I can turn around the Titanic.
Tell me about the program that you have for just general physical fitness that has nothing to do with a therapeutic issue.
Yes, we have 3 strength conditioning professionals, and by strength and conditioning professional, they're certified by the National Strength Conditioning Association. It's a really tough certificate to get. And we have 3 of us on staff that are certified in that way. So when we look at people that just want to come in and get fit and not hurt, we put them through a different set of objective testing and customize their program based on how they test.
Okay. There's so many different schools of thought about stretching, and like there's a different types of yoga even, and there's one called vinyasa. I think, is that just a gentle stretching yoga? Is your physical therapy about elasticity? Not muscle building, is it?
Well,
Or
it can be, but if
be?
you're in the right position. So a lot of times, unfortunately, our clientele that just wants to be active and fit and not hurt.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we evaluate their programs, and we get programs from college athletes that are back in town that they were given from their college program, whether they played soccer or basketball or football. And we evaluate programs, but we look at the human body a little bit differently. So we look at, is the human body ready to do what you're asking it to do? And then we look at fundamental movements. So we look at how people bend, how people squat, how people lift, how people chop, how they push, how they pull. Not just are they doing what they say they're doing on the sheet of paper, but what exactly is the human body doing to adapt to the environment that they're putting themselves in. And a lot of times it is good. We build on a lot of foundations, like you said, around yoga. People understand if you do yoga, then it involves breathing. And what I like to kind of describe to people, if you have a hardware issue, so if you have a back issue or if you have a joint that needs replacing, then that's a hardware issue. But there's a software that runs that hardware.
Right.
And the information that hardware gives the software is determining how you're going to motor program your body. So we really look at changing movement and movement patterns from a very neurologic level.
You have a couple of things on your website I found really interesting. The 4 pillars of performance and our exercise methodology. Yeah. It's not a word I tend to use a whole lot in my business, but can you talk a little bit about the 4 pillars?
Sure thing. So we first, like I said, every body needs to be in the correct position to exercise. So if we see that someone is out of balance or out of alignment, then before we put them in a squat rack with a bar on their back, then we want to make sure that body's neutral.
Right.
Before we go into changing movement. So the movement preparation then follows that, which is how are we going to systematically prepare the nervous system and prepare the muscles, tendons, and joints to do movement.
Right.
So we will go into the weight training portion of things, provided their body is ready to do that. And then in some not all instances, we will work on speed and power, certainly with our high school athletes. And then we also develop the energy system, which if you're a long distance runner, your energy system development is going to look a lot different than someone who's going to be doing a 100-meter dash. And then we spend a lot of time on recovery. Recovery is something that I think a lot of people talk about, but I think honestly, there's a lot of really good strength conditioning professionals out there doing a lot of really good things from the exercise perspective.
Right.
But understanding the nervous system and things around the nervous system and how much we should load the body, and is the nervous system responding positively or negatively to that? And we measure that through things like heart rate variability.
Okay. Do you have, in addition to the referrals that you get from the medical community for physical therapy, do you offer classes for phys ed? Do you offer memberships? How does all that work?
We do. Actually, there's a couple of ways. We actually contract with the O'Neill School. So we provide all of the athletic training and strength conditioning services to the student athletes at the O'Neill School.
Oh.
And that's something we've done for the last 3 years. And that's a great relationship that we have established with them. We offer the same kind of programming to individuals in small groups at our practice. We also partner with other teams and groups in the area. So we work with Liberty Soccer as well and do things with them. We're talking with U.S. Kids Golf now about integrating into their program. And we've worked for years with ACS Volleyball in trying to minimize the damage and risks that come with playing competitive volleyball on a year-round schedule.
Gotcha. Tell me where your location is. You're on Pinehurst Avenue?
Yes, we're at 275 Pinehurst Avenue,
Right.
right next door to Health Innovations Pharmacy.
And you've been there for how long?
Since 2012.
And
August of
you have been there
2012.
since 2012?
Yeah, we've taken on a lot more space since then, but
Yeah. Dee Shaw, who's administrator in my office, I guess she was referred to you for an injury or something where she was overdoing it, tendon stretching or who knows. But she would come in whining and, she didn't feel good, but she raved about you guys and pretty religiously, I guess, comes in and you just keep her tuned up. Is that pretty much in strengthening the weak area? Is that how that works? We don't want to protect her identity.
Well, I also want to protect her health information. So
Right,
if Dee
right.
is good
Of
with
course.
me talking about it, I'm happy to talk about Dee.
Of course.
So Dee is my patient right
Yeah.
now, and she is in an active plan of care to address injuries that she's had
Okay.
and postural imbalances that she's developed.
Right.
We've had lots of conversations in our sessions about events that have occurred to her from a car accident, a traumatic car accident, and just found out that she had been attacked by a pit bull years ago. And when I discover people have trauma like that, that lives in the nervous system, the midbrain, and the body, because you will be in a continual state of fight or flight reaction.
I believe that.
And one of the first things I do is try and teach people how to move out of that autonomic state of constant self-protection, because you can't recover and rebuild and heal if you're constantly waiting for, the next car accident or the next dog that's going to frighten you.
So that's where you mentioned before retraining the brain.
It's all about managing that fight or flight or that rest and digest. That's the first thing that we talk with our patients about. And it may not be the first thing on the first day, because sometimes when you talk at that level with people, they do not want to shut down. And we've had conversations about our military that we treat and the veterans that we treat.
Okay.
And having the same type of, it evolves over time, the trauma that people experience in their life and how it will manifest itself in exaggerated movement patterns or muscles that they don't know how to relax and shut off, or they don't know how to sleep, because when they go into a REM sleep, they relive their traumas.
Right.
So those are all such foundational concepts of our practice. Now, not everybody comes in and has experienced trauma, but they have developed patterns that we need to help them get out of. And we do use a lot of respiration and breathing, like I've done with Dee.
Sounds like you're also part physical psychologist.
Well, there's a lot of psychology in physical therapy, and it doesn't matter what kind of physical therapy you do. All of the
that's
physical
right.
therapists listening to this talk know that you have to connect with your patients on a very deep emotional level in order to get good outcomes.
Well said. We're speaking all about the Sandhills Sports Performance and Physical Therapy Center in Southern Pines on Pinehurst Avenue. We'll be back in the third set. Welcome back to our third set of All Things Moore County. Sandhills Sports Performance and Physical Therapy is a topic of our conversation. Jen and Chris Poulin started the business here in 2012. They came from New England. They're trying to set a standard here, and I guess under one roof, a combination of therapy, conditioning, whole body MRI, looking at the whole picture as an integrative science, as opposed to just very core specific, right?
Right.
You work with athletes, golfers, therapists. You work a lot with the military population here too in Moore County.
Yeah. So when we moved to Moore County, we knew about retirees and golfers because that's who my parents were.
Right.
And we really weren't that familiar with the community at large. But part of how physical therapy started as well was Chris was working with a physician who was a doctor down on Fort Bragg.
Okay.
And she was working in the pain interventional center,
Okay.
which is where a lot of the military active duty who were pretty banged up
Yeah.
were being taken care of in a very interdisciplinary way. And she was seeing and feeling the work that Chris was doing with her on a personal training level and said, hey, this could really help some of our active duty military. So she was able to get referrals off base to our practice so that I could take care of them. And that's really how the practice started, was working with these men and women who were either med boarding out of the military or they were trying to stay in.
Right.
So it was great. My first patient was on his way out of the military, but he had several hundred jumps. He was a jump master and he was pretty beat up and really didn't have a whole lot of hope that he was going to get better. And it took him a half hour to fill out his paperwork. And my eyes were wide open going, oh my gosh, where am I going to even start? And instead of getting overwhelmed, I started the way I start anybody, is evaluating the big picture and talking to him about muscle imbalances and breathing. And, you know, him and I are friends today. He's since moved to Germany and we still keep in touch. And so that was really great. That's how we started our practice. And I'm a little embarrassed to say that when we moved here, we didn't even realize that there was a military community because our focus was on retired golfers. And our eyes were open to all of the young families that live in this area. And we are 60% TRICARE. So we do a bill insurance, but we take care of the military family. So it's very difficult for an active duty member now to get a referral off post, but we do manage to see them.
As I'm listening to you, I want to ask a question. Tell me about one of your really good success stories, something that really meant a lot to you, where you could see a turnaround with somebody, because this stuff touches you personally, but whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, I'll just tell you about a young military wife that I just discharged yesterday.
Oh.
And she came into PT with a lot of neck pain and difficulty working out and feeling her abs and under a lot of pressure because her husband is in the military and deploys. And there's this whole big picture of being a military family. And this young lady, I think I saw her 10 or 11 visits over a 4-month period of time, just to kind of give a big picture. People come to see us for longer durations of care so that we can really delve into management of that holistic body balance. And I'll call her Sue to protect her identity, but she did everything I asked her to do. And she now has the ability to pick up her kids without pain, to exercise and run without pain. And it was just a really great outcome to see what kind of positive impact I could have on her life. And I think she's just in her early 30s, and how to be able to kind of break a pattern of pain and dysfunction that probably wasn't going to move in the right direction with all that added stress of being a young mom with a husband that's deploys.
You know what's so funny? As you get older, your definition of good health changes. You accommodate, and you don't even know that you're taking steps backwards, right? It just kind of creeps up on you.
Right, and people don't realize how bad they feel until they feel better.
Right.
And you know,
they don't know they don't feel good.
Right. And people endure a lot of pain. and accept a lot of things.
Right.
And when they come to our practice, we explain to them, Chris talked about the 4 pillars of his performance program, but in my world, there are 4 things that have to balance out. And it's sleep, it's stress management, it's exercise, and it's nutrition.
Diet. Mm-hmm.
And when one of those gets out of balance, it has a ripple, a domino effect on all of them. So we talk to our patients about all those things. So working with the military family is so rewarding because we know the sacrifices that their spouses, and sometimes both of them,
Right.
make for our country. And
Right.
so that is probably one of the most rewarding parts of the work that we do. It really, the impact you're having not just on them, but on their entire families. So, it's been great working with the military community.
Yeah. When you moved here, you moved here for a lifestyle change,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned that it had a feeling of New England.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the same way. And I always say that people love this area because it reminds them of the towns and the communities they grew up in as kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a feeling of nostalgia and yesteryear here. But in getting here and being here, it's a very... it's an incestuous community, not in a bad way. It's just intimate. You get to know people very closely, maybe unlike an urban area, but this is a very unusual place because you can connect with people
Yes.
very quickly.
Yes, and we do have a good word of mouth referral base because
yeah,
of
sure you do.
When people have a positive outcome or they get really, even if you don't get resolution of the problem, but when you teach people how to manage their problem so it doesn't get out of control, they can sleep better. You may not rid them of all their pain. And I had a patient that I actually discharged that young lady and my next patient who hurt himself lifting weight, and he's a veteran, and he was lifting heavy weight overhead with probably not the best form, as we talked about, and he sneezed.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, he popped a rib and strained an intercostal. And I'll tell you, that guy did everything I said, probably more than he needed to do. But he's back in the pool swimming, and he's sleeping better at night. And he's not 100% rid of his pain, but he knows what to do and feels confident that if he continues to work on the programming, he'll get back to his level of fitness and pain-free life.
You're in the middle or the beginning of rebranding your business.
Yes.
Called Breakthrough.
Breakthrough Physical Therapy.
Okay.
So probably a year and a half ago, we got approached by a business broker. And, I've come to realize that my husband has a way of getting things that he wants in our marriage. And this was another one, because when we first got approached about either selling our business or merging our business, I wanted nothing to do with that until Chris said to me, the way our business is growing, Jen, someone has to manage it. And if it's not going to be you, because you're going to have to work part-time and manage the business, then we need to join forces with someone that can help us grow and nurture this business so that
keep you free to do what you love to do.
Exactly. So I had no interest after my experience with my clinical practice in Vermont. I really didn't want to manage the business. I wanted to mentor my staff and bring people into the fold and grow and touch more lives. And so we found this company, Breakthrough Physical Therapy, which is therapist owned. They're based out of North Carolina and South Carolina. And we did not sell our business 100%. We're still partners in Sandhills, but we are joining forces with Breakthrough. And it's been great because now I can go to work and manage the business. I still manage the business, but nothing's changed except we have systems in place now that are going to help us grow. And we already have an expansion plan that we plan this summer to take on the space next door and really reconfigure our space to be quite beautiful. And we couldn't do it if we didn't merge our forces. And we're really excited to bring the programs that we have into the company as a whole.
So right now, you're probably in the middle of a web design change, but right now, if people wanted to access your website, where would they go?
They will still go to Sandhills Sports Performance. So it's sandhillssp.com. The numbers are going to stay the same. Eventually that website will link and transfer over to Breakthrough. And there's over 22 clinics in the Breakthrough family.
Yep.
And we're really excited to join them.
Yeah, 2 years in this community is a lifetime. If you network properly and you market properly, you can, 2 years from now, with all the changing demographics, people will only know breakthrough therapy. They won't
Right.
know, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
We say it's the same great staff, same location, new name.
Yeah. I want to wish you guys both the best of luck. And if you want to come back and talk after you've made the transition, even bring a client or two.
Yeah, that would be great.
As a testimonial. It's done, and you're more than welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that.
thanks, Jen. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right.
Sandhills Sports Performance and Physical Therapy. Look for a name change to Breakthrough Therapy, but they're not changing their address. They're on Pinehurst Avenue in Southern Pines. It was a pleasure to meet you both.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Thank you.